guys, so this is the second video in my advice series. This one is going to be on sixth form. So I have just finished my first year of sixth form. I go to an all-girls selective grammar school. I don't pay to go to my school, just thought I'd put that out there, but it's all girls. There's about 120 girls in my year group, about 750 people in the school, and I wear a uniform and I take German, Spanish, politics and English, and I'm dropping politics, results pending, for next year. So I hope that that's cleared up my school situation. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment them down below, but I'm just going to go straight in and answer all of the questions that you guys have given me about preparing for sixth form and what sixth form is actually like. So the first question is from Amy, and she's like, how do you organise your notes for A-levels? This is a personal thing, it depends on what A-levels you're taking. For me personally, I had a ring binder folder for each AS level, and I had dividers. So for English I had a divider for Gatsby notes, a divider for Gatsby past papers, a divider for Chaucer notes, etc. like that. For politics I had a divider for each of the 8 units and then a divider for past paper questions. For German I had a divider for each of the 6 units and a divider for past papers. That's generally how I tend to do it. Of course it's personal. For me, I didn't actually use my folders when it came to revising because I'd made my own condensed set of notes. But if you are a person that uses notes, then make sure that you use dividers, because without them you're not going to get very far. The next question is, what is one thing you wish you had known / done at the beginning of year 12? One thing that I wish I'd done is realise that I feel like I was a bit scaremongered by people telling me that A-levels were so much more difficult and that you had to work non-stop from the start of the year. So I wish that somebody had told me that I didn't need to do that from September, because honestly I couldn't remember any of the stuff that I'd done, that I did in September, and I feel like I overdid it a bit in September, you know, trying to do too much stuff. I wish someone had told me, yes, A-levels are difficult, but they're not like the end of the world, and you need to ease yourself in rather than panicking and overworking and then having to compensate for that later in the year. Different are GCSEs from A-levels. A lot of people will tell you that it's a huge jump, and that really scared me. I'm not going to tell you that it's a huge jump, because it's only a huge jump if you make it one. So for me personally, I found all 4 of mine, apart from politics really, because I didn't study politics, to be a huge jump from GCSE. Not so much in the terms of difficulty, it was more just how much there was, and the style of the exam was just totally different. And for me, going on to new specifications, I found exacerbated that jump a lot. I found English literature was probably the biggest jump. One thing I would say though is, you're gonna feel really lost in the first term. That's normal, and don't change your A-levels unless you're 100% sure that that's not what you're gonna do, because I nearly dropped English literature at the start of the year because I hated it so much, but now it's my favourite subject and I want to take it at uni. So don't think that the jump should scare you into dropping a subject really quickly, because it's no point. But I would say they're different in the way that, yes, you have to do a lot more independent study, but you get more frees. Also, I'd say the main way that they're different is that they just expect more of you in less time. So my exam for English was the same length of time as my GCSE one, but my essays were just a total different standard. So I'd say that's probably the biggest jump. And with the new specification, the big jump is clearly learning 2 years of content for the end of A2, which I just think is mean. What are the essential things you should start doing at the beginning of year 12? If you're taking essay subjects, I would seriously recommend doing your summaries, even if you're doing sciences as well. Any subject with notes, start making your notes as you go along. So the only subject I did with notes was politics. So we'd have a lesson, say for example on, I don't know, I can't even think of anything, that's literally how little I've been paying attention in politics. What did we study? Referendums, for example. We had a lesson on referendums, then I'd go home and make my mind map on referendums using my notes, add a little bit from the textbook that we didn't cover in class, and that way when I got to mocks and when I got to end of year exams, I had a full-on binder full of mind maps that had all of the information I needed to know, and that was my Bible. I didn't use anything else, and that way not only are you consolidating it, when you come to learn it, you're not relearning it, you're just revising it, and also you've got a full set of notes. I remember Jade, she said that she did biology flashcards as she went along. That really helps. I would say that's the only thing you need to be doing is make your notes as you go. It's not like GCSE. It's about moving schools for sixth form. I stayed at my school, I nearly moved school, I didn't though, and I'm so glad that I didn't. Just remember, the grass is not always greener. Of course, if you feel like you've grown out of your school or it doesn't give you the provisions that you want, definitely go for it, but don't be afraid to come back if you don't like it. That being said though, a lot of girls at our school who are new, who I've spoken to while I've been doing induction days this week, have said that they hated the first term because they felt like they would never fit in, but now they're like part of the family. I can literally not tell the difference between new girls and old girls now. So I would say if you want to move schools, go for it. Just be 100% sure that, like, why you want to do it. If you're moving just for the sake of moving, then I wouldn't recommend it. If you're moving for subjects, then definitely go for it. If you're moving because of difficulties you've had at your old school, then I think you need to weigh up the pros and cons. Don't make a rash decision and don't be afraid to change your mind, because that's what the school's there for. Ways to prepare for sixth form in the summer before year 12. I actually did nothing for sixth form. I did the work that they set us on induction day. And then the last week of summer, before we went back to school, I started going through some grammar for my languages, and I'd read the texts for English, and for politics I had just kept up with the news over the summer. So I'm not suggesting that you do any extensive work, but it is definitely better if you're doing English or anything with text, read the texts. If you're doing languages, just keep your grammar and your vocab up. Like, don't like spend all day, but like a few minutes on Quizlet a day, or like a bit of grammar, anything like that. If you're doing sciences, maths, again, you're going to need to know the GCSE spec inside out. So I'm pretty sure Primrose Kitten, if you type in her like channel name, she's released like a summer chemistry prep for year 12, so that might be really useful for you guys. There's so much online that you can do. I'm not saying learn the syllabus. Don't even bother like looking, like you'll do that in September, but make sure your knowledge from GCSE is really solid. If you're taking a new subject, then it might be worth just reading around the perimeters of the subject, doing some exercises online, maybe buying like a revision guide and just seeing what it's going to be like, things like that. Nothing extensive though, because when you get to school in September it's going to be like, whoa! So like enjoy your summer. Like I literally did next to nothing. How to structure revision through the year, specifically for English Lit and languages. I would say my biggest tip on revision is revise for your mocks. Like seriously, revise for them as if they're your actual exams. That for me was my biggest help at GCSE and my biggest help at A-level. When I came to revise for my end of years, I knew the stuff that I'd revised for mocks, like it was in my head. So it wasn't a case of, oh my god, I've got the whole year's worth of content. I revised so much over the Christmas holidays, and that really, really made it easier for me in June. I can't explain how much of a difference that made to me. So I would say don't start revising from September. As I said, collect your notes, because if you do your notes as you go along, when you come to revise for your mocks, you're just revising. But I would say my biggest tip is just make sure you revise for your mocks. Whenever you have an in-class test, revise for it properly, because if you're revising stuff over the year periodically, when you come to do it, even if you've forgotten it, as soon as you remind yourself of it, it's going to be there in your head again. For English literature, I actually didn't revise throughout the year at all, pretty much. I did my notes, and whenever I did my notes in class, say if we were doing a scene in Streetcar, when I got home I would get my revision guides out. I had 2 revision guides for Streetcar. I'd go online, I'd annotate the scene further. Like, always just try and make your notes that little bit better. With English, you're not going to be learning your analysis, but you need to understand the text really well. For languages, I would just say all I did as I went along, I did vocab. Oh my god, like, I cannot stress to you how much the vocab changed, like how easy I found the exam. I, all the way through the year, if I saw a word I didn't know on the vocab list, had all of the textbook vocab. Every single day I'd go over terms, and for mocks and for the actual exam I went over all of them, from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, and I knew the vocab so well, and that literally made the exam like a GCSE listening, because I knew the vocab, so it was just like reading a really easy English text. So yeah, vocab I would say. Is there any point in doing an EPQ? I feel like if your school does it in year 12, definitely go for it. Our school does it in year 13, so I'm not doing it, purely because all of the universities I've spoke to won't lower my grade for it, and also a lot of, one university tutor I spoke to at Oxford didn't even know what it was. And like, I do languages, so I don't know if you know, but with the new specs for languages you have to do an independent research project, which is all about like a mini EPQ. So I've got to do 2 mini EPQs anyway, so I was like, no. if you want to do one, if you've got something that you're really interested in, I would say go for it, because I really wish that I had the time to do one. If you feel like you're going to be pressed for time and you're only doing it to make your uni application look better, then I wouldn't bother. Is it worth getting a laptop or a tablet for sixth form to avoid the clunky folders? I have a Surface, so like that's one of the Windows Surfaces that our school gave us. Personally, I don't think it saved me space. Like, I would say yes. For me, my lifesaver in sixth form has been Google Drive. Like, I have my whole life on Google Drive. If someone like stole my Google Drive, that's me done for A-levels, because I have so many notes on there. But if you, like, don't buy a new laptop for sixth form, like, unless your laptop's knackered. You are going to need computers, but I'm sure your school will probably have decent ICT provisions, like a few computers. What is the workload like at the beginning? The workload is more than at GCSE, purely because it's more independent study. So like, if I have been told by my politics teacher, finish up to page 180 for the notes from like 160 or something, so that's 20 pages of notes. Oh, should never set that much in one lesson, but you know what I mean. But that's not just the 20 pages of notes she set you. You might also want to find some stuff online to back up your opinions, make your revision notes from that. For example, for languages, I never really got much homework for languages. Like, it would be like, finish this page in the textbook, but then I'd also do vocab in my own time, grammar in my own time, listen to Spanish music, try and practice my speaking skills, things like that. So I would say the workload that you get from lessons, apart from around exam time, is around the same, but you are expected to do so much more independent study, so you need to remember that. So if you're not getting set much homework, it's not because you should be dossing, it's because, you know, they want you to do stuff yourself. Manage to balance your subjects and not fall behind. I'm telling you now, I do not know how I studied 12 subjects at GCSE. Like, I actually do not remember how that was possible, because I will study one of my subjects, one of my 4, for like 10 minutes and automatically feel like I'm going to fail my other 3. Like, I feel like you can't balance them. There's no way of doing it. Literally, I would study English for a solid like 10 minutes and then I'd start panicking. I'd be like, oh my god, I'm going to fail Spanish. I feel like I haven't done Spanish in so long. That's just how it is. So, general advice for that would be, don't worry if it feels like you're failing one of your subjects. As long as you are putting in the equal time, then there is no reason why you will fail. I tended to balance it as if I had a lesson of that subject on that day, that would be the day that I did it. So Mondays I have Spanish and politics, so I do Spanish and politics in the evening on a Monday. Tuesday I had English, so I had 333 then English, so I'd probably do a bit more Spanish and politics in the morning, then I'd do English in the afternoon. German I had on Wednesday, so I'd always do German in the afternoon. Had Spanish and politics on Thursday, so again I'd do some Spanish and politics, and then I had German and English on Friday, so I'd do some German and English. And then over the weekend I'd do whatever I was feeling. That's how I did it, but like, I mean, that's, you know, whatever. Are you dropping one of your subjects? Did you find doing 4 subjects too much? I never found it too much, but I am dropping one of mine purely because our school recommends that you do so, and because I got deputy head girl, and because I just have so much other things going on in my life. I just want to take the 3 subjects that I actually like rather than taking a 4th one for the sake of it. I feel like I could cope with 4 at A2. I feel like I'd be able to deal with it, but I literally don't want to become like a complete hermit, and I'd rather put my full attention into the 3 that I want to, 2 of them I want to carry on at uni and the other one I want to carry on like outside of my degree, than do politics, which, don't get me wrong, I do love, but like, I'm never going to use American politics in my life. So yeah. Do you prioritise the subject you find hardest or the one you want to do at uni? Well, I didn't know what subjects I wanted to do at uni until the end of this year, so I usually prioritised whichever one I had the homework for first. I always get all my homework done first, and then I usually just did whichever one I was in the mood with. I do remember, specifically, I found English Lit so difficult at the start of the year, so I remember a lot of time went into English Lit at the start of the year. Then I started slipping on my German, so a lot of time went into my German. So whichever one you feel like you're struggling the most with at that point, just put the most effort into that. But generally I would keep it like 25, 25, 25, 25% split. Should I get ahead with AS Biology or enjoy my summer? This is my last question I'm going to do, because I just want to tell you that there is no point in you getting ahead, because you are going to get taught stuff in September. By all means, get a revision guide and have a look through it, or learn your GCSE content, but don't try and like enjoy your summer, because if you try and learn the stuff for the spec, you're going to get stressed because you're not going to have a teacher to answer your questions. And also that's what AES year is for, is to learn the content. So I would say, yeah, keep up your knowledge over the summer, don't just leave it. Like, I would say learn your biology textbook, like your GCSE one, make sure you're still clear on all those concepts, so when you go to learn the new stuff in September, you're not going to find it difficult because you know your GCSE stuff, if that makes sense. That applies to all subjects. Like, don't try and get too far ahead. But I mean, I started the AS grammar workbook just so when I went back I was in the mood for languages, you know, them sort of things. But yeah, so that is the end of this video. I hope you found it of some use. If you did, then be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you next week with next week's advice video. Bye guys! Mwah.